Howdy fellow model railroaders, my name's Kevin Brown and I want to thank you for checking out my YouTube channel. This episode I'm going to go over the footage I took from the Decatur train show. I've been sitting on that for a while, and in addition one of my subscribers asked if I would do a layout tour, a helicopter tour if you will, and so I thought I'd add that in here and show you where the layout is right now. But first, the Decatur train show. It was on August 20th and 21st, as I recall. Unfortunately, they had a last minute, I mean, like within the last few weeks of the start, a last minute change of schedule. They had to change it by a weekend. And that's usually the kiss of death. Fortunately, it recovered relatively nicely, but it was noticeably smaller than years before in both vendors and layouts. And in addition, a lot of the people that usually come and contribute to my group, the N-Scale of Bloomington Normal's T-Track layout, couldn't make it because of a conflict with the new date. So everything was quite a bit smaller than we're used to, but it was still quite fun, and there was still plenty of vendors, and I had plenty of chance to spend money. So anyway, here's some footage from Decatur, and I hope you enjoy it.
Everything from 1
Well, there's been a minor setback on the Brownsville Terminal Railroad. This is a brand new water meter, which I didn't know I needed, but I did remember to leave access to, but unfortunately it meant I had to disassemble a fair amount of my layout to get to it. Now, this is not the first time I've had to get back there, so I designed everything so it would come apart relatively easily, and go back together. But it is something to consider when you're putting your layout together. This is not the first time I've had to get back to that area, and probably won't be the last. So if you're having any thoughts about designing a layout, keep in mind you might need access to some of that stuff. Anyway, I'm going to put this back together and go back to working on the layout. Sure had fun at Decatur, even though it was noticeably smaller than before. But you know, anytime you change a date around, you're going to have problems. One of the nice things was one of our members, Bill Anderson, who doesn't get a chance to join us very often. He had that weekend off, and so he got to play trains and get caught up. So that was very worthwhile. I had a good time. So now I suppose it's on to a layout tour. I suppose a little bit of history is in order. This layout started out as very modestly as just 2 single modules and 4 corner modules that I could set up on the table over there, and it was something that I could run trains on and exercise them, and it was a start, and I knew I wanted to do more than that. So phase 2, I decided to fill the 5x8 table with modules, and that ended up being a grand total of 11 modules. And it included the Brownsville station and the Minneapolis area and Thomasboro over here too. It was a good start. I really enjoyed it. However, I knew I made some compromises. First, there was only one passenger station, which, considering I wanted to run passenger trains, that wasn't so good. And it was very limited space for everything else, and I couldn't have non-railroad buildings on it because it just wasn't room. Everything had to be pretty condensed. But hey, it was a good start. I had a very limited staging yard and no classification yard. So I decided to move on to phase 3, which was a permanent home for the layout on this side of the room. I had to take all the gaming stuff, most of it get rid of, and store it efficiently on that side. So that's the gaming side. This is the train side. And I went up from the 11 modules on that to 18 modules plus a staging yard. It now has a classification yard. Each of the 3 towns has a passenger station. There's just a lot more to do here, and I'm hopeful that I will be able to have multiple people here in operating sessions. I'm building towards that eventuality. So there's a lot going on here. So hey, enough of the talking. Let's do a quick tour of the layout. We're going to start with the things along the south side of the room and move our way around. So I hope you enjoy it. I'll start the tour with the modules along the south end of the train room. This is Brownsville Station, which is inspired by Waverley Station in Edinburgh, Scotland. We stayed there very near there on vacation one year, and I thought that was a great design. This is Brownsville proper. These 2 modules here were originally part of the layout, the portable layout on the table behind me, and were used as is in this. Now these are new modules. This is the P&N Junction module, relatively recently finished. And I do recommend, if you're interested in operations at all, a junction like this just generates an enormous amount of traffic and interest. So if you got a chance to put one in, I recommend it. Here's the Mackinac River Bridge section, and the recently completed Observatory Hill corner. So that is all the modules along the south side. The east side of the layout is pretty much dominated by Thomasboro. And here's the modules that make it up. A lot of switching here. And these are also the modules I routinely take to shows. And these are going to be the expansion. This is an expansion to Thomasboro, which is going to include a couple restaurants and a bridge, which I'm going to call a road bridge, which is going to be the old 66 overpass. And this over here is going to be a farm scene, which is going to be heavily based on my Grandpa Brown's farm I remember as a kid. So that's the modules on the east side of the room. One more long look at the Thomasboro modules and the east side of the layout room. The north side of the layout starts out with my duck under and removable section. You can see down here the wiring, so I can plug it in and take it out. It means that I can take this module out of the way and have access to it, and when I want to run I just put the darn thing back in. The rest of the north side is dominated by Minneapolis. Now, some of you will remember all the structures on Minneapolis proper are left over from the old portable edition of the layout. In fact, one of the modules themselves was the only Minneapolis module. Now there's two, and also a inside corner, which is going to be the station for Minneapolis. The other big addition of the layout, this is along the west wall, is Blair Yard. My previous incarnation of the layout had no yard at all. Now I have a reasonable classification yard with all sorts of switching opportunities as well. So that is kind of that. The only part left is the staging yard, so let's go take a quick peek. The staging yard is also, I guess, behind the west wall of the layout room. And I went ahead and built it on just plain old plywood, traditional construction rather than going modular with this. It just made a lot more sense. And I have quite a few tracks to stage various trains for operating. And you can see the holes I cut into the wall to let the trains go on the layout and off the layout, which I think is a nice illusion for an operating layout. So that's kind of the tour, what's done so far. Well, that's the Brownsville Terminal Railroad so far. I know I have a lot left to do. I'm not really in any hurry. I want to enjoy what I'm doing and take my time. And I have to admit that I tend to get more model railroading stuff done when the weather gets cold. And so I haven't really been getting a lot done lately. My next step is going to be altering my operating scheme. I've decided that I wanted to have extra railroads that would come in, not just GM&O and other ones. So it's going to be the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy. And I've made some purchases to make the Q trains ready to go. So I've got to work on that. So that's kind of what's going on in the immediate future on the layout. This is the time where I usually talk about my group, the N Scale of Bloomington Normal. We have a train show coming up at Normal Public Library the first weekend in November. That's always fun, a lot of kids through, and it's just a blast. But to my knowledge, that's the next one we have coming up, so stay tuned. I'll get some footage from that. It's always fun to see the kids. They have as much fun as we do, I swear. So that's kind of all I've got for this video. I hope you like what you saw. If you did, please hit like and subscribe, and thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time.